trafficker perpetrator would rent a whole hotel floor just for us girls. And I found out during my research that the youngest sex trafficker here is 10 years old. Now, the age that they enter into a sex trafficking and prostitution is 12 to 14. But then that was in my time. Now you're ordering 10-year-old girls and 10-year-old boys. So I was really wanting to be rescued. I really didn't get rescued. People ask me all the time, well, how did you get out of it? Well, I aged out of it because I didn't have anybody in my time and in my community that really even cared about any kids missing. We have a lot of missing kids, and it's not because they ran away from home. It's because they were snatched up, and I'm talking about right today. All the missing kids report that we have that no one is doing anything about. It's because they snatched up. And I just have to say this, Dr. Haney, before I go further. I want people to think about the Nigerian girls. I want them to think about how can you go get 300 little girls out of a school in broad daylight and no one know where they at. Now, I'm already puzzled about the airplane that they can't find. But now we're talking about 300 little girls from age probably 12 to 14. So that means the government is involved. It's a cover-up. And until we start facing this and speaking on this, then we're going to have this. And so I got rescued because I aged out. And I aged out, I was like 42 years old, but I aged out at 30 because now by then I'm full of drugs, I'm homeless, I don't feel like I belong to anything, I don't want to live, so I'm not performing as good as the 12-year-old I once were or the 14-year-old. So that means I'm costing them money. See, you'll cost them money because now they got to feed you more drugs, and that means the price is going up. Then you got the clients, the perverts that's complaining because I'm not performing like they paid for me to perform. Well, I'm handcuffed to a bed, I'm gagged by my mouth so I don't scream, and I'm drugged up. So I'm laying there like a limp towel. So that's more complaints for them. So after about 29 or 30, the men started just leaving me alone because I'm drugged out. And so once they left me alone, I'm saying about 32, I was just lost. I was out in the streets. That's why people say Clement Greenlee was homeless for 10 years. I truly was. You ashamed to go home, you can't face your family, and then you don't even know what to say. Even though my family loved me unconditionally, I'm the one that was shamed. So I lived in the streets for almost 10, 15 years until I was rescued by the program Magdalene House. And one of the young ladies, Regina Mullins, who kind of lived that same lifestyle, she went and got help first, and she came back and got me. So when I entered the Magdalene program at 42 years old, keep in mind now, I'm 42, I feel like I'm an old woman, I'm uneducated, I'm drugged out, and I don't have anything to live for. So when I go in this program, I immediately say, you can't help me, I just want to die. But these people did not give up on me. I mean, this Magdalene program has saved my life. I entered that program in 2001. I came out in 2003, and I never looked back. And so she has been such an inspiration. She is Reverend Becca Stevens, the founder. She has been such an inspiration to me that she has encouraged me to go further. And so she believed in me so much that she sent me to New Orleans, and that's where I've been for the last 18 months. I went down there to help open up a house like Magdalene to go educate them on sex trafficking, and also to go to the streets of New Orleans. If you know the streets of New Orleans, the first place you hit is Bourbon Street, because everybody have all these call girls or girls swinging in and out the windows, and all the prostitutes standing on the sidewalk. Well, then who have once asked one of those ladies, are you here against your will? Because everybody is not there because they want a new Lexus or they want to pay off a college fee. Some people are there because they are forced there, and you got to look and see who's watching you when you talk to the girls. So I made it to New Orleans, and I did a lot of speaking. I went and talked to a lot of judges, DAs, police officers, anybody I could talk to, sororities, and I spoke so well about sex trafficking in the United States, period, not just New Orleans, that the governor even offered to bring me back down.
And so it's a real problem, you think, in the city of New Orleans, and would that be typical of some of the other cities? It's not as hidden there, perhaps, as it might be in Tennessee.
No, the stats show that number one is Atlanta. They show, that proves that. Then you got Texas, because it's running down that I-10 line too. So you got 5 states that's really is major in it, and New Orleans just happened to be one of the states that made their laws a little tougher. So we are trying to get other states to back off of what Governor Jindal just did, because by him changing the law, it made it stiffer. And what I mean by made it stiffer, Dr. Haney, is if we got locked up for any sex crime, crime against nature, just doing any kind of oral sex, anything we get caught doing, we automatically get charged as a sex offender. We automatically get 18 months to 3 years. It's women's in jail now just because they got caught giving oral sex. But the man, he didn't get caught doing anything, so I didn't think that was right. So if you're going to force us out here, and then this man is going to be a pervert enough to pay for me, and I'm 12 and 10 years old, then I feel like then you need to be accounted for too. So my call was to ask them to change the law and make it stiffer on everybody, not just us. You make it stiffer on the men's, and you make it stiffer on the men's who are putting us out there.
Well, it appears to me, Ms. Greenlee, doing this as we end this first segment, that this is a real problem in America today. Is that what we're saying?
This is a huge problem in America today.
And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. The topic is human trafficking in the state of Tennessee, and Ms. Greenlee has given us some information in reference to what is going on in Tennessee, as well as what might be happening in other states around the nation in reference to human trafficking. Continue our conversation, Ms. Greenlee.
Yes, Dr. Haney, I have 3 13-year-old nieces, and I'm scared to death that if I don't stay in their life and in their face talking about sex trafficking and men's and what they're choosing to do, I'm afraid I will lose them. So we have 2 organizations other than the Magdalene program. We have 2 organizations that's out here trying to reach the sex trafficking youth as we speak. And one is called One Less, and the other one is called End Slavery. Now, it's new to Tennessee, but they have stepped out to do something. Magdalene was the only organization that really stepped out there. Magdalene is just one organization that can hold so many. But it is so many young ladies out here that's being trapped already. It's so many phone calls that I get from 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds, and majority of them start out in saying, he tricked me. You know, he took me out like he cared for me, like he loved me. And once we got there, he said, I owe you, and you're going to repay me like this, and this is how you have to repay me. Now, when they started threatening your family, doing something to your sister, I know where your mama work at, I know what school your brother go to, but then you traumatized. A lot of people say, why didn't you tell it? Well, if I told it and something happened to either one of my family members that they said they were going to do something to, then I'm automatically traumatized for the rest of my life. Also, you get to see them beat another little girl or another young lady in front of you. So if you already saw that, you already know what's going to happen. I got an 8-inch stab wound in my back now. I don't know how many scars in my head for trying to get away, for trying to run away. And so it didn't work for me. So that made me like, I'm not going to be able to tell anything else. So I just want I want everybody to know that you got to quit turning your head. You got to quit saying, It don't happen here. It's just in India, Cambodia. It is right in your backyard. And the story in Cincinnati, Ohio, if everybody remember that, them 3 girls that was in that basement for 10 straight years. If everybody remember that story, it'll tell you that it's definitely in your backyard. And so I just want people to really understand that they have to talk about this. I'm willing to talk to anybody. I'm willing to share my story. I'm willing to come and speak anywhere. All they have to do is just call me up, 615-589-8984. And I'll come anywhere, because not only are they asking for the girls, they're asking for the little boys. So when I was in Louisiana, one of the clerks, workers had went online and ordered a 10-year-old boy. And this is why we was opening this subject, because this is not just a can of worms. This is a conversation and a concern for the entire state of Tennessee.
And so people are able to order children by way of the internet. Men are able to order young boys and young girls and et cetera, simply with a click of the mouse.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
That's how prevalent it is now, and how widespread.
Yeah, everybody know about the page called Backspace, Backpage. That's for the girls. And then you got a gay page that they go on for the little boys. And they order them and say how old they want them to be, what color hair they want them to be, how much they want them to weigh. And the guy actually showed up at the hotel with $200, 5 condoms, a date rape drug, and a lubricant. He actually showed up for a 10-year-old boy, and this man worked for the feds. So it's like, it's not just no pimping game. This is a government issue, and they are covering it up, and they know that they can do something about this sex trafficking if they wanted to. You got drug trafficking, gun trafficking, and sex trafficking. Well, the drug trafficking is #1, the sex trafficking #2, and then the guns. See, the guns was #2, but now they selling people more than they are guns.
And from what I understand, this is a real problem with youth. When you mention drugs, alcohol, and sex, that's one of the areas where many of our young people, our teenagers, are caught up in one of the more detrimental areas of their lives.
Yes.
When they get involved in drugs, sex, and guns.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I've been gone for 18 months to New Orleans, and this is why I'm back on your set, letting people know I'm back. I'm hitting the streets. I'm coming after my young girls. I'm coming after my young boys. It ain't about violence. It's about protecting them, period. I've already had a phone call from several young girls telling me that they went to the hotel with their boyfriend because they thought they loved them, and when they got there, it was other men in there waiting for them that they have already paid for to have these kind of sex activities with these little girls. They are getting caught up once they turn me onto that X pill or that bar or that crack or the heroin that's coming out now. The new heroin is coming back. Once they get the young girls on that right there, then they're on their way to being sold as slaves.
We've got to do more, you think, as a community and as a society in reference to this, Ms. Greenlee.
Yes.
Having had a chance to work, what would you suggest that we do in terms of trying to get a handle on this?
#1, I suggest the subject start happening in church, the subject start being talked about in schools, and the subject start being talked about in libraries, because those are the 3 places where they all are gathered at. And I know people don't want to talk about sex in church, but you need to talk about sex in church. You need to talk about sex trafficking. It's right next door. All of these black girls that are missing has not ran away from home. And I'm not just throwing it on a racial thing, but you tend to look for more other colors, like India or white or Latinos or something. You tend to look for them more than you do black. If you go on Black page, Black Girls Missing, you'll see a bunch of us missing. So why nobody looking for them? How we know they're not tied up? How we know they're not in the basement gagged up and shot up for the dope and can't scream? Because for a long time I was gagged up, I was shot up for the dope, and I couldn't scream.
And so this is a real problem, and that what we're doing now is to simply try to highlight that and make people much more aware of it. And I have to admit that this is an eye-opener to me. Of course, I've heard of sex trafficking and, here and there, but I didn't know it was such an industry. And you were saying that it is a real industry,
Yes.
and people are making a lot of money, and a lot of folks are getting hurt in reference to it, and et cetera.
Yes.
And I think you mentioned the problem down in Louisiana, where the government is actually changing things in such a way that's detrimental to young girls more than anything else. Is that what we're...
Yes, he had made the laws stricter for the perpetrators now and the pimps. Like I said, the pimps is not in an afro and a Cadillac anymore. And he changed the law so tough that he flew me back down to stand there with him while he signed the new law and gave me a copy of it with the ink pen. So I was really proud of that. So whatever I was saying to him, it rests his ears, but more than anything, it rests his heart. He might have daughters himself or granddaughters, and it gave him something to think about. So now, if we done this in Louisiana, we need to do it in Tennessee, and this is what I'm here to talk about. I got both ends of the story. I got sex trafficking and I got youth violence, and I'm done with just talking about it. I want to be about it.
And they both seem to come together. That violence is often associated with this trafficking, and whether violence or trafficking, young people, young females primarily, many females primarily are caught up in it, and there's nothing that they can do themselves, and they need some kind of assistance, some kind of help out of this.
Yeah. If anybody just even take a chance and just run around to some of these hotels, you will see the age range has changed. There's no more 20-something out there. They are 13-something out there. And it's sad. And you just look at them dressed like I was dressed, in the short dress and the high heels and all the lipstick. And everybody pointing at them just like they did me. Look at that fast-ass girl. Look at her with all that lipstick. But then nobody reach out to say, let me do something with this little girl. She don't need to be out here. So if we stop turning our head and quit judging and reach out and support, then we are the ones that can make something different in this community, especially around sex trafficking.
Well, and Ms. Greenlee, we're coming to the end of this show for today. And I want to thank you for that excellent information. I think that this is the show that we've been trying to get for a long time, because I think it has been quite recently. And I think that, needless to say, that all of the problems that we're having across the border in reference to those young people coming across the border, I think that might be involved in some of the activities that we're talking about. And we want to talk about it later, because I think that you probably got a lot of information in reference to what's going on with that. But in the meantime, let me thank you and to tell you how much we appreciate you coming by and giving us that information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.